I saw my first dog fight when I was about 8 years old, thereabouts, and my Uncle Bill took me to Southall. We went to a big gypsy camp down there, and they had a dog fight going on. I remember there was a load of men standing about. I knew I was going to see something, and that something was obviously going to be the dog fight, but I wasn't sure what to expect, not having seen anything like that before. And it was pretty vicious, first fight. And it was a bit of an initiation as far as I was concerned. It was all the people it could have happened to. The dogs, when they fight each other, obviously tear at each other's coats, fish. And I got blood on me. And I remember standing there being 8 years old amongst this forest of legs, and the dogs got close to me, opened up the vein, bang, it's blood on my face and on my clothes. And I remember my Uncle Bill bending down and wiping my face. And he said a stupid thing to me. He said, "You're a man now." I was 8 years old. You know, and he says, "You're a man now," and I was just a kid, you know, a bit of a boy, and you know, it's just something that stuck in my mind over the years, and you know, something that stayed with me, as it would for a lot of people. But you know, I mean, dogs and dog fighting are endemic amongst gypsy people, and I've seen 49 contests over the years, but gave up watching them a few years back now because it's just too, I think, brutal, and it's not where I am at the moment. Yeah, it was definitely physically upsetting. I didn't cry. I was aware that I was expected not to cry.
Yeah.
And I was worried what would happen, to be quite honest, if I did. And you know, so no, I didn't cry. I was probably too afraid to cry at the time, or you know, or leave. And I think there's some things as a children are obviously very. You know, they have investigative minds, very curious, and I wanted to see, I wanted to look, but when obviously things start to, you know, obviously when you see blood, that does change things.
Yeah.
Two dogs fighting in the street is not that much of a big deal, but when you see dogs fighting, animals fighting in a professional sort of way, you know, that's entirely different as far as, you know, you're concerned as an individual, and it is a very frightening thing. Those early dog fights are probably the ones that stick in my mind the most.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of being taken in by my relations, and you know, it's definitely. I mean, let's face it, it ain't the usual thing. I mean, what do most people do with their children now? You know, take their children to a play area and take them to the cinema or something like that. No, not for me. I was taken to dog fights, you know, from a young age. But you know, again, it's part of not. You know, I knew there was something that weren't right about it, because it's obviously you get a feeling for these sorts of things, but I accepted it, I think, over a period of time. It's just something that happened.
Yeah. Do you think it influenced, like, did you think it made you more violent as a person watching this from young?
No.
Do you think it made you more compassionate?
I think it has done, but that compassion takes time.
Yeah.
You know, you have to work with it, and no, I don't think it. You know, it did. I think there was, you know, I had problems with my behaviour anyway, so I don't think there was, you know, I don't think the dog fighting, you know, affected me a great deal because there are other things. As a matter of fact, dog fighting was an outlet to some degree, because it gave me, as I said, the opportunity to sort of project onto something that was lesser, I suppose, than me in that sort of sense. But seeing animals fight. I can remember, you know, very clearly, very vividly, seeing two dogs built like tanks, two pit bulls, flying at each other against the ring is, you know, it's a noise that you don't forget. It's like the first time you hear someone glass in the face of a beer glass. It's that underwater sort of sound of something, that horrible noise that you never ever forget. And there's this bone clack of teeth. It's sort of like that when these two things hurtle across the ring at each other. When they're pit-faced against each other, they're released, and the two dogs are wound up to that degree, and they go bang, and they collide like that. And it's the sound of the animal's teeth clacking against the other beast. There's something that you just don't forget, and it can be very exhilarating to watch something like that. You get very easily, you know, sort of caught up with the whole feeling of it.
Yeah.
But not under any, you know, sort of false impression about it, because it ain't nice and it ain't good. It ain't good for the animal, and it probably ain't good for the spectators.
No. And what do you think your paintings of the dogs achieve for yourself when you're doing it?
Well, that's difficult, because I can't. I'm not really sure I can answer that question properly, because I don't know. I could sit here and you know try and tell you all sorts of reasons for doing it, but I think the main thing is, as I said, just trying to get some form of perspective.
Yeah.
And the dogs are an embodiment of projected sort of male energy. I suppose you could say that. You know, that's a retrospective sort of way of looking at it. But you know, no, I mean, it's something that I was involved in, and you know, I have done it because it's something that's happened in my life, and I only know how to paint those things which have happened. I don't paint anything that ain't happened. Dogs, again, you know, looking at them in symbolic terms, are symbolic of sort of human behaviour, in some sort of embody the unconscious wish fulfilment impulse of striving towards an immediate gain of something. You know, dogs are impulsive. Their only knowledge of death is purely conceptual and non-reflexive. A few moments of pain, it's all over. But human beings, you know, as Ernest Becker said, to live with the knowledge of your own death every day of your life, that is entirely different. And I think that's obviously the life-death aspect of a dog fights is something that I'm trying to get across, the Eros and Thanatos sort of idea, you know, that crops up in a lot of my work. That was the you know, the last dog fight, you know, that I saw, where the dog wasn't killed during the dog fight, you know, but was taken away, dispatched otherwise. But the main dog in there received, you know, injuries. His ears got torn, and you know, there's a few cuts. And but that, you know, I think that was the first dog fight painting that I produced, and it was of the last dog fight. So it was a way, strangely enough, I thought that I'd just paint that maybe and move away from it, but it's led to other stuff. It's led to more. I think it's around about half a dozen, dog fight paintings and paintings of dogs, and I do appreciate the form. Of the animal. It's a great influence. I mean, they're a pleasure to you know, to be around, and a pleasure to paint. You know, I enjoy painting them.
And the last fight you saw, when you made a conscious decision not to watch anymore, is there anything about that particular fight that you found? Yeah,
they fucking electrocuted the dog afterwards, and I thought, that was it. You know, at the end of it, you know, it's bad news, because the dog didn't die of its injuries. Again, this is a gypsy site, and you know, it was this dog fight, and dog was carted away, and it was a mate of mine's dog, and he was took away, and we were all sitting around the caravan, the gypsy caravan, of the night time, was all drinking, talking. Then suddenly the lights go out, and I said, "What's the problem? Is the generator cut out or something? What's the, you know, what's the big deal?" And my mate Fred said to me, he says, "No," he says, that's Tom, he's just electrocuted the dog. So he just wired the dog up. The dog was in a bad way. I couldn't, because it's a legal contest, I couldn't take the dog to the vets. You know, he was a pit bull, so they couldn't take him away to the vets. He was in a bad way, so they didn't. They couldn't treat him properly. They didn't have the, you know, medicines there, anaesthetic or anything like that. He was losing blood. So the only thing to do with him is, unfortunately, beat him, or in this case, electrocute him. And I've seen dogs clubbed before and killed in that sort of sense. So yeah, that was it. After that, I thought, that's how I wash my hands of it. You know, that's enough's enough. You know, I was, you know, after seeing that sort of thing, and continuously, it's not a good thing. And it's, as I said before, it's not a good thing for the animal, and it's not a good thing for the individual concerned. I think you asked me about, you know, obviously what effect it has on me, if it affects sort of violence. For me, I don't think it did, because there was already other things that come into play as far as I was concerned. But I think for some people, it obviously will affect them. And you know, that's you know, and certainly children as well. Children shouldn't see stuff like that. There's just some things you shouldn't show children, and you know, I shouldn't have seen that stuff at my age. You know, it's not good. You know, I don't think it affected me in a way that it made me more aggressive. It probably, you know, I don't know. I think it just made me a more worried individual. I suppose that is the way it affected me.
Okay. Do you intend to continue using imagery of fighting dogs in your paintings? Yeah,
I think this is going to continue, you know, for a while, and until I've painted enough and I've shown enough of it as I need to. But I don't see there's no need to stop. You know, as I paint as what comes up psychologically, as far as I'm concerned, I try not to shy away from anything. So if I get a recurrent image or a dream of something, or something seems to be annoying me or upsetting me, I try and do some work on it to ascertain what it is. And a dog fight might not, that comes up in a dream, might not, of course, be symbolic of a dog fight. It could be something else. So that you know, the sort of latent content of the dream may, of course, embody something which is entirely different, and it may turn out to be a different painting. But you know, where I'm dealing with these things face on in a conscious sense, so, right, well, okay, I'm going to paint a dog fight, then when I feel the need to do it, I will, and I think that's the way it will continue.
Yeah.